Shimshon, Samson, and his victories. I want to apologize. Some of you may not like this message. I really don't have too much to share with you today. So I pray that whatever I'm able to share will be a blessing, because I know there are Tov messages, and I know there are other messages that some of you have come to realize are not always going to be Tov. This is one of those not too good messages, so you'll just have to roll with me and bear with me. Please keep it down outside. If you're taking a break, getting refreshments, visiting the rooms where you find rest. Again, this message, Shimshon and his victories. Turn with me, please, to Shoftim 13. Shoftim, Judges. Why do we have that there? Oh, okay. Shoftim, good idea. Shoftim, Judges, chapter 13. I thought maybe Elijah was 2 weeks early. Judges 13:24. And the woman bore a son. That's talking about Mrs. Manoah, not manure. Please watch your language. Mrs. Manoah, and called his name Samson, or Shimshon. And the child grew, and Yahuwah blessed him. Circle those words, please. In Shoftim, Judges 13:24, Yahuwah blessed him. Brother Chris, do a sound check for me. Verse 25. And the Ruach of Yahuwah, notice, began to move him at times in the camp of Dan, between Sorah and Eshtaol. So two things I want us to make note. Is Samson and his victories. Again, this message, Samson and his victories. Number one, Yahuwah blessed him. Number two, verse 25, the Ruach moved him. So, contrary to church doctrine and contrary to your own head doctrine, that many of you have repeated ad nauseum, ad infinitum, is that Samson was a man of the flesh. That Samson was a man led by sex, and that's how he wound up messing around with Delilah or Delilah. Again, this Shoftim 13:24. So we got to understand as a premise, because if our premise is wrong, what's going to happen to our conclusion? It's going to be all base. It's going to be wrong. The premise is that he was a man who chased the flesh and the things of the flesh. However, in 24 and 25 of Shoftim 13, we see that he was A, blessed by Yahuwah, B, a man of the Ruach. You can't be blessed by Yahuwah and a man of the Ruach if you are chasing the flesh and chasing things that are of the flesh. Now go to Shoftim 14:1. Judges 14:1. And Shimshon went down to Timnath, and saw a woman in Timnath of the daughters of the Plishtim. And he came up, verse 2, and told his Abba and his Ima, mom and dad, and said, hey, I've seen a Philistine baby. She's cute. She's in Timnath of the daughters of the Plishtim. Now go get her for me as my first wife. Go get her for me. Now, in a precursory reading, we tend to cerebralize the fact that he's got no business taking a wife and taking a woman of the Plishtim, of the Philistines. He's got no business to. Where should his wife come from?
Israel.
The people in the commonwealth of Israel. 2 Corinthians 6:14 through 17 tells us what? Be not unequally yoked with unbelievers. For what fellowship has light with darkness? What concord has Yahuwah with Belial? Therefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith Yahuwah, and I will receive you unto myself, and then, when? Tell me when. Then you will be my sons and daughters, saith Yahuwah the Almighty. So we see, number one, he is asking his Abba and Ima to take a Philistine wife from the Plishtim. Now, our precursory, functionary reading seems to indicate that he's a man of the flesh. And yet we begin his birth in Shoftim 13, 24, and 25, that A, he was a man who was blessed by Yahuwah, and B, he was a man who was led by the Ruach of Yahuwah. So right away we've got to assume something's not kosher. On one hand, Vladimir, he's getting women of foreign nations, but on the other hand, we know that he's a man of the Ruach, and we know that Yahuwah blessed him and called him, a man referred to him as a man of the Ruach. Can I get a witness?
Amen. Amen.
What we see here in verse 2, brothers and sisters, again, this message, Samson, Shimshon, and his victories. What's the name of this message? Shimshon and his victories. Now, what we see here in verse 2, brothers and sisters, is the shittach in Yiddish, or in Hebrew, the shidduchin, of an arranged marriage. The biblical way, the only biblical way to pursue marriage. Not through dating, not through courting. It is not through online services. It is through shittach in Yiddish, or the Hebrew word shidduchin. So Shimshon says, Mom, Dad, I want a biblical marriage. In order to have a biblical marriage, go down to the Plishtim and get this daughter and woman of what? Timnah. So we have this dichotomy, don't we? Don't we? On one hand, he's a man of the Ruach, but on the other hand, he's getting a foreign wife.
Yes.
Now, if this was an isolated incident, then Shimshon would be a man of the flesh. If this was an isolated incident. But rather, as you're going to see as a shofet in Israel, this was a pattern of conquest. Again, this message, Shimshon and his victories. Radio audience, get friends, get your wife, get your children, put them down and let them listen in. So you can learn and grow on Shabbat in the word of Yahuwah. That's what this is all about. This ministry is for you on this Shabbat. Verse 3. Then his Iba, Judges 14, Shoftim 14:3. Then his Abba and his Ima said to him, Is there not a woman among the daughters of Israel, your brothers and sisters, or among all my people, that you go take a wife from this uncircumcised, what? Plishtim? And Shimshon said to his Abba, Get her for me, because she pleases me well. Now what is the first thing we think of? Sex. Ooh, she pleases him. Ooh, 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 ooh. Go get her, go get her. Ooh, go get her, because she. No, but Yahuwah says no. He was a man of the Ruach, doesn't he? Yahuwah says he's a man of the Ruach, and he was blessed by Yahuwah. Are you with me?
Amen.
So then, what is this nonsense of taking Plishtim as a wife in a shittach? In a prearranged marriage. If you're going to get married, see your parents. Or if you don't have your parents, or if the parents are not believers, see the rabbi or the spiritual fathers who will help you engage in shittach and avoid the heartache of the 70% divorce rate in the world today. So we see that his marriages, listen, were about something else. If his marriages were not of the flesh, didn't Yahuwah say back in 13:24 and 13:25 that he was a man who was blessed and Ruach led? Isn't that how we began this teaching?
It is.
Then he couldn't be a man of the flesh, could he? And yet we find him disobeying the principle of being equally yoked with other believers, especially when it comes to finding a wife. You're not going to find a Mishlei 31 Eshet Chayil in the nations. You're not going to find an Eshet Chayil in the nations as much as you try to. You're going to find her in the Commonwealth of Israel by shittach. And you will continue to fail at marriage. You will continue to fail in relationships until you begin to do things his way, which is to make shittach by your parents choosing for you or your spiritual father and mother. And let them choose for you. Every bone in your body is going to